Good morning.
Good morning.
It is good to see you all on this beautiful, sunny. I just learned yesterday from Gail Stone, because I didn't know that March 1st is the meteorological beginning of spring, so I can say happy spring. Even if it's a little chilly, it's good to be in the warmth of community. Welcome to this place of peace, justice, and hope. In this Unitarian Universalist congregation, we affirm no matter who you are, who you love, where you are on your journey, you are welcome here. For those of you joining us online, we're so glad that you're with us. If you're visiting with us today, we invite you to sign our visitor's book in the living room at the back of the sanctuary. And we would love for you to join us for coffee hour after the service. Briefly get your coffee, because there will be a workshop given by Reverend Allison Farnum and Keith Talley, who are our guest speakers today, and you're going to be hearing about the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois. So they can grab their coffee, bring it back up, and stay for the workshop following the service. How's that? We'd love to have you do that. We invite you to wear your name tag with your pronoun stickers. It gives people the opportunity to know who you are. And if you need a name tag, you can get that in the back in the living room. I am the Reverend Dr. Beth Johnson. My pronouns are she, they, and it is good to be with you today. Our music is provided by Jamie Passman, our music coordinator, and the choir is going to be helping us sing some of the songs as well. And I'm joined in the service in just a little bit by Diane Barnes. I'm thrilled to be sharing this service, as I said, with Keith Talley and the Reverend Allison Farnum, who is the Executive Director of the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois. Keith is the Prison Solidarity Specialist at the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois and also serves as the Reentry Coordinator at Phalanx Family Services. He lives on the far side of Chicago, and his wonderful wife Denise is with us today. Glad you're here. Yay. Reverend Allison Farnum, as I said, is the Director and Minister of the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois and an affiliated community minister at Second Unitarian Church of Chicago, and she lives in Evanston. There's always a lot going on at our church, and you can read all about it in News and Notes, which is our weekly email that comes out. It arrives in your inbox every Friday, and there are printed copies available downstairs. If you would like to receive News and Notes, stop by the welcome table in the back in the living room and make sure that you can get signed up. Child care for children under the age of 5 is available in our playroom located in the lower level. All ages, however, are encouraged or may remain in the service if you would like, and just remember, all voices are welcome here. We recognize that individuals of all ages and abilities have different needs during the service. In the living room, we provide a cart of fidgets and drawing supplies. If at any point you feel the need for movement, whether you're young or older, however it is that you feel like you may want to have a little bit of movement, a little bit of distraction, because we know sometimes our brains get distracted. Just feel free to get up, grab a fidget, engage in drawing, stand, sit on the floor in the living room. There are also different types of seating available in the back. And see a greeter if you need assistance. Will you take a breath with me and arrive? Thinking about all it is that we bring with us, I was surprised this morning when I had CBS on in anticipation of Sunday morning, but it was the news show, and there was actually a segment on how to manage your anxiety in these times. It's a sign of the times that now in news programs are inviting us to take a breath. So do take a breath. It's good to have you. May you each know you are welcome in this house of peace. May our worship and our fellowship this morning touch your heart, mind, and spirit. it is good to be together. And now I'd like to invite up UCH member Diane Barnes to talk a little bit about her journey in Unitarian Universalism in our church. Come on up, Diane.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I was really pleased to be invited, kind of honored to be chosen as the sort of inaugural testimonial as we go into our pledge season this year. I'm going to have to miss the more pledge-focused service next week. So this is sort of teeing up your thought process about the pledge commitment you may choose to make to the church in the coming year. I made a few notes, did a little bit of thinking over the last week about why I'm a member here and why I continue to be a committed member. My name is Diane Barnes. My husband Michael and I live in Indian Head Park. We lived in LaGrange when I first learned of the church. We have a 23-year-old daughter who was raised in the church, who is now a college graduate living in Rockford, and a 20-year-old son, Lucas, who's a junior in college in Pittsburgh, who was also raised in the church. And I realized as I was making these notes that as of this summer, it's been 20 years since I joined the church, which kind of blew my mind. So 20 years ago, we had a toddler and we had an infant, and we're living in LaGrange, and my husband and I had both been raised Catholic. Our families were Catholic 3 generations back. And my recollection about church growing up was that it was treated as sort of a chore. You went on Sunday morning, you did your hour, you sat there where you got talked at, and then you just could go about your day, right? And it wasn't really anything that we felt very emotionally connected to. And so Michael and I had both decided that we would not raise our children Catholic, but we weren't sure what to do. We really wanted to make sure that they had some kind of spiritual grounding in a place where they could kind of explore their own beliefs. And so the summer after Lucas was born, I randomly saw a print ad in the paper. Nice. The local paper that was hand-delivered to people's doorsteps in LaGrange back then, if you can recall that. It had a little quarter-page ad in it at the bottom that's, and I don't even remember what it said, but basically it posed some questions, and it said, if you answered yes to any of these questions, you might be a Unitarian. And I thought, maybe I am. I don't know. I'd never heard of Unitarianism. I grew up in a small town in Kansas. So I showed up on a random Sunday morning. Reverend Ed, who was our long-term minister here, who has since retired and unfortunately has passed away, but before his retirement, was sitting up here in a Hawaiian shirt showing everyone his vacation photos from the vacation he just returned from. I don't remember where, but it was the most refreshing, thoughtful, joyful church experience I had ever had. And I thought, it was incredibly welcoming, and everyone was just so positive, and it was clearly here because they wanted to be, right, which was just kind of a foreign experience for me. So we joined the church, and we found a very welcoming and positive community that really supported our children's exploration of their own spirituality and their own identities, right, in a welcoming environment. So I spent about the first 10 years of my time here primarily across the alley, because as some of you remember back in the day, like the kids would go straight to class and the adults would come here. And so I knew Pam, but even after 8 or 10 years, when I did show up at the church, people would say, oh, you must be new here. We're so glad you're here. Not realizing that I'd been across the alley for close to a decade. But my children went through the Rainbow program in 1st and 2nd grade. They both benefited from the OWL program. That was a phased exploration of sexuality and relationship dynamics and consent and all the important things that kids, unfortunately, in today's world need to understand. And then they went through the coming of age program, which occurred in junior high school. And that was really, as I realize now, very transformative for them, because I texted both of them in the last week and said, I've been asked to get up at church and talk about what the church means to me. What would you say if someone asked you? And immediately their minds went to the coming of age experience that they had. The discussions they had with their mentors, a trusted adult from the congregation was matched with them to help them have conversations, beyond their immediate family about how they felt about their spirituality. Chloe still remembers the letter that we wrote to her, that had a baby picture and, told her about all of our hopes and dreams for her. She still keeps it and looks at it every now and then. And Lucas remembers distinctly the coming of age ceremony when he faced his fear of singing in public by getting up in front of everyone and performing a vocal solo, and how affirmed and supported he felt in that experience. So for me, I feel like the church was instrumental in helping us raise compassionate, courageous, empathetic young adults to send out into the world. For myself, for the last 8 or 10 years, church has been more about what I need out of it, right, and what I'm getting out of it. A social network, a way to kind of step out of the stress of day to day and think about bigger things on Sunday morning. I've served the church as a circle coordinator. I've been involved in the clinic escorting with a very committed group of individuals for many years. I have sporadically, probably too sporadically, supported Mary Getty and Lou Crowley's efforts to support the BEDS program with the food preparation that we do. And I'm really looking forward this summer to being involved in the effort to be more visible at Pride events in the western suburbs. So not just to make sure that people who have children understand that this is a welcoming place, but anyone, no matter where they are, in their life's journey, know that there is a welcoming congregation in the western suburbs that they can come to if they don't feel that connection with the faith of their youth. So for the past 20 years, being part of this church has really been an incredibly supportive and welcoming experience for our entire family. It really helps maintain my sense of hope and optimism to come here on Sunday morning and just take a breath and prepare for the things I'll deal with professionally and personally in the week ahead. So I feel a tremendous sense of gratitude that I showed up here that random Sunday and found this group of people. I know there's others who are sort of nodding and understanding. They understand the experience and can kind of feel that way as well. And for those of you who are newer, I think I just hope that maybe someday, 15 or 20 years from now, you can look back and say, I'm so glad I found this place as well. So, thank you.
You too could share your journey here if you would like. So see me after the service if you are so inspired as I am by Diane sharing. Just take a pause here as we begin our service to acknowledge that we in the western suburbs inhabit areas that are in the traditional territories of many indigenous peoples. As people trying to live into a more just world, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the history and legacy of colonialism, the harm done to Native peoples, and also to work to repair that harm. And now I would like to invite up Reverend Allison for our call to worship.
These words are from Sarah Lawal. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all there is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Come, let us worship together. Out of the flames, we rise. As we are coming into this time, I'd like to invite you to join in singing the meditation on breathing. We just heard about how important it is to take a collective breath. I want to give a shout out also to those for whom breathing doesn't feel good, and that we can think of this almost as like a spiritual breath, taking in what we need, letting go of what we don't. And so this is a 3-part song, and we're going to teach the first 2 parts. Can I get a note for the drone? Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. So you can just keep singing the drone as much as you want, but if you want, you can join in the words on the screen. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, you'll hear the choir singing the descant. When I breathe in, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, when I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, we're gonna come back to the drone. I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out. Think of everything you want to breathe in, to take in this time. Everything that you need to be a good person. Everything you need to be in community, to feel a deeper sense of connection to that love that sustains us, transforms us. And then breathing out whatever you need to let go of to be here today. Blessed be.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are by D. Van Diver. We light this chalice, symbol of our faith, alive in this world, naming our vision of collective liberation and daring to remember each other into beloved community.
We have an opportunity. Hello. For those who are young and young at heart, you can just snuggle and stay next to your loved ones if you want. That's totally cool. Today we're going to talk about oopses and ouches. Ugh. But I don't know if any of you have ever made an oops. Oh, I see some hands raised already. Yeah, a couple oopses. Oopses happen, and in congregational life, we talk about making oopses as a normal practice of what just happens when human beings get together, right? Sometimes we make oopses with each other and create ouches in other people. In your school upbringing, how do people respond to oopses? Or maybe it was that might have been 40 years ago, or it might be happening right now. So you can just raise your hand and shout out, what happens when you make an oops at school, or did make an oops at school?
Laughed at.
Say it again?
Get laughed at.
Oh, you'd get laughed at. What else would happen if you made an oops, or what if it was like somebody did something like, I don't know, like I actually did something bad at school once. I made fun of somebody else. How about you? You'd get in trouble? What happens at school when people get in trouble? Wait, let's let Layla finish. At school, if somebody got in trouble, what happens then? They have a talk with the teacher. Now, for those of you who were in school 40 years ago, is that what would happen? Okay, how about an example? A ruler. And what would happen with that ruler? Your hand would get slapped. Can you imagine that happening to you right now? Can you imagine that? What else 40 years ago, what might have happened? Detention. So you'd be punished with detention, and that's when you'd have to stay after school, maybe have to write sentences. I will not scratch my name into the bathroom stall. What other things? Marion? The dean would slam the boys up against the locker. In my elementary school, you got paddled. And that was a big board that would be used to slap someone's rear end. And if it had holes in the paddle, it would sting and hurt even more. So there are different ways that human beings deal with oopses and ouches. But in this congregation and in Unitarian Universalism, we do things differently. And the school is doing things differently too. Having a talk with the teacher than being physically abused. In congregational life, we have covenants that we create together. They're promises that we make together about how we want to be with one another. Right? How do we live more fully into our humanity through relationship? And it can feel really good to be in congregational life, but actually there's going to be an oops, and there's going to be someone who feels an ouch. And that's when our covenantal life really comes alive. That's when we can build muscle about how to be with each other, not just when things are smiley and happy and wonderful, but when we make mistakes and hurt one another. So I want to share with you a reading that can remind you about a practice that we can continue to come to when we are living most fully and sometimes in the most challenging ways into our covenantal life. And that's written by a member of Second Unitarian Church, Atina Danner, in her book, Incantations for Rest, which you can purchase at the UUA bookstore. So I'm gonna speak one part, and then actually let's have like one side be the person who's receiving the ouches. So one side starts one line, and then the other side does the other line, okay? I receive your ouch with openness and curiosity. I receive your oops with acceptance and empathy. I offer my ouch with hope and trust. I offer my oops with humility and courage. I release my ouch with immeasurable faith. I release my oops with purpose. I release your ouch with promise. I release your oops with my eyes and heart open. I don't remember if there's another slide, but I think that that's the end of it, right? So when we find ways to continue to stay in covenant with one another, and instead of calling each other out, isolating each other from one another, punishing one another, hurting one another even more, causing more harm than the initial oops or ouch that happened. When we engage in this practice of covenant, we're helping model the world that we dream of, a different way of being than even how our government has responded to the oopses and ouches that inevitably happen in society. There's another way, and we're part of building that new way. Blessed be. Now let us join in singing our children to their religious exploration classes. And now we center. In the Old English, that term worshipen actually means to lift up that which is of most worth in our lives. And so we can lift that up and those values and also center ourselves by singing.
I think they're going to need the hymnal for this. Oh, yep, here it is.
And I want you to think of someone who might need to hear about how beautiful they are. It might be a message you need to sing to yourself or to someone else. How could anyone? Number 1053 in the Teal hymnal. We'll sing it through 3 times. Will you join me in the spirit of meditation? As we join in this time together, let us notice where we are connected and rooted to the earth that supports us and holds us up. Perhaps noticing the beat of your heart, and the way that our body continues to be a vessel for life. Whether we will it or not, it is there, that vitality moving in and through all of us. Taking this time to notice what is within the quiet corners of our hearts. Could be joy, could be despair, it could be overwhelm, worry, restlessness, mirth, delight, gratitude, or all the feelings all together. And take a moment to acknowledge the depth of feeling and being that is in this room, whether we're joining online or here in this physical space. Imagining a community, a network of hands and hearts that's bigger than the sum of its parts, weaving together, weaving our hearts together, our lives together into a network and a fabric of support that will not be torn apart. And that from this place of support, there is an opportunity to continue to stretch and welcome. To live into radical inclusivity, to model what can be in the midst of the so many messages of doom or despair, to snatch joy where we can, and claim our power of beauty and loving presence in this community. May it be so. Peace, shalom, salam, ashe. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Allison, for preparing us for the time in our service where we share with one another our joys and sorrows. You've already connected to all that it is that you brought with you. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you'd like to share, in a moment, I'll invite you to come forward. You can drop a pebble in the water, realizing that that is the community holding all that you share. And just a reminder that pebbles can be dropped in silence.
I'm Susan, and I'm celebrating the fact that my older daughter, whom most of you know because she was raised in this church, is turning 33 on Wednesday. And I'm joyful that my younger daughter, Sophie, is sitting in the back of the sanctuary here with my niece, Jane. Sophie grew up in the church as well.
Good morning, I'm Kathy. I dropped a stone this morning for our friends Paula, Janet, and Marshawn, and our many other friends, previously incarcerated people who, although they are living their lives now free with joy, are constantly facing barriers, walls, doors slammed in their face because of the fear of others.
Hi, my name's Suzanne, and I'm Drop That Stone for all the people of Ukraine.
I'm Darren, and you might see me on my phone during service. That's because I do YouTube greeting to all of our members and friends who participate remotely, and we also offer to the viewers a chance to share their joys and sorrows. And we have a joy today from Linda R. Today is the 26th birthday of her son, who also grew up in this church, Ken. She asked me to share that with you.
For those joys and sorrows, those spoken and unspoken, will you hold with me a moment of silent reflection? Spirit of life, spirit of love, moving in, through, and among us. As we move from this time, may the warmth of the community, may the depth of sharing, may the knowledge whether a stone has been dropped or not, remind each and all here that together we are more than we could ever be alone. And you, each of you, know this. You are always and everywhere held in love and mystery deeper than you can know. Our reading this morning is called Mirror by Lonnie Smith. Lonnie Smith holds a Master's of Arts in Christian Ministry and Restorative Arts from North Park Seminary. He has been caged for 34 years in the Illinois State Prisons, currently locked up in Robinson, Illinois. Lonnie is a scholar activist who serves on the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois Advisory Council. He was confined at Stateville Prison, which is now closed. The Mirror. Stateville Correctional Center is a tomb that contains the convicted, whether guilty or not. And the only object that one has to see themselves with is the mirror. A mirror is no respecter of persons. The distorted view can be a true reflection of self. The mirror is a consistent companion in one's solitude and gives solace in seeing a familiar face that keeps you company in the loneliest of times. The gravity of being buried alive in a place that holds so many tortured souls makes you wonder, are you still among the living? But the mirror confirms you are still alive. The mirror gives you vision beyond the 10-by-6 concrete box and iron bars to see dull surfaces intended to dehumanize the soul and suppress our emotions. In wonder, a select few can see glimpses of beauty and sometimes capturing one profound image that can give you peace throughout the day. In a place designed to break you psychologically and spiritually, we find community in the human interaction of conversing with our next-door neighbor. With the mirror held out to the century-old bars, we can talk face to face with a fellow captive about nostalgia, sorrow, and hopes for tomorrow. This is what builds community in the reflections of a mirrored life.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. My name is Keith Talley. I'm the prison Solidarity Specialist for Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois. And I just want to share some comments about this poem. I was released approximately 14 months ago, and before becoming employed with UUPMI, I went to Second Unitarian Service. You see, I had participated in the pen pal program, and I had the fortune of riches to have 2 pen pals, and it had such an impact on my life that I had to go to a service. And during that service, Reverend Allison recited this poem from Lonnie. I don't know Lonnie, but I know a lot of Lonnies, all right? Individuals who are committed to self-development and committed to service, all right? And when she recited the poem, I immediately began to not weep but cry, right? Right? It tapped into the trauma from the experience, because not only is prison a traumatic environment, a traumatic experience, but you leave with that trauma. And that poem about the mirror, such a simple object, but has such meaning for those who are confined. He talked about in the poem how we used to stick the mirror out the bars. And I want you to envision the movie Shawshank Redemption right here, right? Because that's what Stateville looks like. Most of the facilities, or particularly the older ones, Stateville and Menards, were built during the Civil War era, right? Right. And we used to stick the mirror out the bars, and we used to converse with each other on the gallery. Now, we can hear each other. We didn't need to stick the mirror out, but looking in each other's eyes and connecting with another human being really just tapped into our humanity and our connection. The mirror also allowed us to receive provisions, like, because we share. Prison is a community. And it's so strange, right? You think when you leave prison, you're going to a community? No. That was the civil community. And people are really divided out here, right? But so in prison, people who are tied to this horrible condition together, they are chained together, they have a community, and so we share things, right? Food, books, right? And the mirror is the way we fish our line. So somebody throw a line out, and we have to throw another line out, and we fish. But if you're hungry, the mirror is the means by which you are fed. If you're seeking guidance, that book means the world to you. The mirror, for me, had a more powerful and more personal meaning. When I signed up to UUPMI, and I was introduced to it. I'll talk about this later on at the workshop. But I was introduced to it strangely, and because you need to know that prison is sexist. Newsflash, right? That's homophobic, right? It is religiously conservative. Only the religious conservative voices are really prominent. It is racially segregated. Everyone kind of gets in their own respective corners. And I was introduced to UU through a white, gay Buddhist. Right? An improbable conversation, right? And he introduced me to UU, right? So, and I'll talk about all that later, but when I experienced my pen pals, and they used to write me, and they would share photos with me of them living their life, and they were so welcoming and loving, and I had difficulty receiving it. The question I have for me is, what can I get out this arrangement for me? And what can these people do for me, all right? And one day, while looking in the mirror at myself, this powerful moment, I was looking at the mirror at myself, asking myself, because it's not just you people that I couldn't enter into a relationship. It was my family. It was my fiance then, my wife now. What was inside of me that was keeping me in a relation? And so coming to terms with the selfishness, the self-centeredness, but in that moment, I was holding that mirror looking into myself. So the mirror for me has such not only symbolic meaning, not only practical meaning, but transformative meaning. So again, when I heard that poem, oh my God, right? It just blew me away. So the next time you think about individuals who are confined, who are caged, I want you to take away two things. That one is that they aren't beyond redemption. No one is beyond redemption. And the second thing is that love is going to win the day. Love is going to win the day. And it may be a long day, but at the end of the day, we have to believe that love is going to win. Before I go, though, and I'm looking forward to really talking to you guys after the service, I would be remiss if I came to Hinsdale and I didn't recognize our brother Bill Ryan for his work with Stateville Speaks. Can we give him a hand? I'm an old 80s numbers like Lonnie. I entered the Department of Corrections in the 80s. And this piece, and all the iterations and how it evolved, I had the opportunity to experience it firsthand. And when the institutions, it was so powerful, the institutions wouldn't give us our mail. They wouldn't give it to us. We were on a desert. We were in a desert. We didn't have any information about nothing about litigation, nothing about laws being passed, no way to connect with each other and feed each other. But there was one mainstay that we always had, and this was this publication, Stateville Speaks. And so on behalf of all the brothers and sisters that are still back there, Bill, I never thought I would meet you. Thank you, brother. Thank you. And I have to share one more thing before I leave. And I want you guys to know, I want to know that you heard me. And I want to share this one thing, and that is that prisons don't prevent harm, they cause harm, right? Now, it's important for me to know that you heard me when I said that, right? So I'm going to say it again, and then I want to hear you say it, right? Now, you don't have to believe in it right now, but I need to know that you heard me. Prisons don't prevent harm, they cause harm.
Prisons don't prevent harm, they cause harm.
I don't know if you heard me. I don't think you heard me. That wasn't convincing. I wasn't convinced with that one. One more time. Prisons don't prevent harm, they cause harm. Give yourselves a hand. We look forward to seeing you after the service. Yeah.
We get to sing a song. You've got a friend. Some of you may or may not know it, but this is a sing-along. So we get to sing it together. We have shills in the audience.
Love
it good to know you've got this church? Yeah, amen, that's right, whoop, whoop, whoop. Now, Keith shared with you that often on the inside, there's opportunities for connection and community building. And I wanted to share a story that Monica Cosby, who's one of our consultants, and she was locked up at Logan Prison for 25 years. She's a grandma scholar activist. She has lots of, as she says, experiential scholarship when it comes to sharing about what it's like to build community inside. And she shares a story about how sometimes you get tickets, you get written up for stuff by corrections officers, and how, you know, if your friend was feeling down, sometimes you would make silly faces at the guards, just like, and get a ticket, but it was worth it because it made your friend laugh. Or you'd scrape together your money so that a friend who needed caffeine every morning in her coffee for her mental health would get her coffee. And you want to know why? It's because it was beneficial to everyone. We all benefit when we all care for one another, right? And so that's what Monica preaches about, you know, that experiential scholarship, but also the wisdom that we can take and all apply. Because we live in a system where the state, with a capital S, has abandoned people for generations. And maybe some of you who come from historically marginalized communities, you know that abandonment powerfully. And that we in congregations have the opportunity to show something different that we refuse to abandon. And this is a phrase that Monica Cosby shares in a book called Let This Radicalize You, about how she and her siblings in community at Logan refused to abandon one another. But that preaches on the outside too. With our theology as Unitarian Universalists, where we live in a throwaway society and our worth is reduced to what we buy or produce. And hopefully, some say we're in the end stages of capitalism, which has relied entirely on racism and classism to function, and that we are now working towards a more holistic vision in which we work in collaboration with God or the divine or the spirit of love that moves in and through us in our work and repair of the world. Now, prison abolition is a part of this vision. And the social geographer Ruth Wilson Gilmore says that abolition isn't just about tearing down the systems of policing or prisons, but in fact it's about the building up of life-affirming institutions. And we're hearing now from studies about tyranny, like, is it Tim Snyder? Who wrote On Tyranny, how he talks about we have to put faith into the institutions who are building up that world we dream of, especially now. And so I get to participate in that in small ways, working with Keith and with a robust volunteer network with the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois in congregations, reminding you of the power that you have to be present and to show up. Showing up for each other, right? This is a picture of me and my friend Lonnie, Tracy's friend as well. Marion knows him. We went to Lonnie's graduation together. This was at Stateville. Before he was moved to Big Muddy and then to Robinson. And so we get to show up for one another, and those visits, of course, are such a delight. It's like the world falls away and we get to commune with one another over lots of snacks. Very expensive snacks, by the way. But in our organization, we've been encouraged by people, especially Lonnie and the work that he's done around ending death by incarceration. So I bet in this congregation you've heard that parole doesn't exist in Illinois. Yeah, I think you've probably heard that. So we really have no formal mechanisms for people, especially with long-term sentences, to actually get out. You have to, maybe you'll get something through the courts through tens of thousands of dollars worth of effort that may not come to anything, or you have a clemency packet that's sitting on the desk of the governor's office that hasn't been signed for 3 to 4 years. So being able to create mechanisms of release like that are set forth through the elder parole bill is deeply important. And death by incarceration was described by one of our members, Cliff Powers, who's in Western. He says, a more complex and accurate definition about death incarceration is that it takes into account all the ways that the incarceration contributes to a person's death or the length of their life. So the phrase death by incarceration acknowledges the effective nature of being locked up. Is my sentence DBI, death by incarceration? Yes. My sentence requires me to spend 45 years in prison. That'll have me released a month before I turn 64. While the life expectancy of the average person is 10 years past this, it's not quite so for someone who grew up like I did, in poverty, and with continued alcohol and drug addiction from the ages of 11 to 19. Studies show that for someone who's sentenced at 25 years old, the average life expectancy, and yes, this is worth crying over, I tell you, little baby, I'm with you. The average life expectancy for him is 64. He's been incarcerated, he says, since I was 18, which would logically put my life expectancy at less than 64, which is when I'm stated to get out. Add to this conditions I've lived with while in prison, poor diet, stress, and it's unlikely I will survive my sentence. It's possible, and I know of, people who've lived more than 45 years in prison, but they are anomalies. So I want to share with you a picture of Patrice Lumumba Daniels, who's part of our the planning of this service, who wanted us to sing the song, Ain't It Good to Know You've Got a Friend, the Carole King song that we sang, to remind us of the power of showing up for one another in whatever ways we can. You know, not everyone's called to do prison ministry or to be a prisoner pen pal, but of course, we encourage you to, because it can be a life-changing experience for everyone involved. This is a picture of Advisory Council member Patrice Lumumba Daniels with another Unitarian Universalist, Megan Selby, who's also an elder in our Advisory Council. And that we can find ways to show up for each other and be an organized presence in the face of the abandonment by the state, right? That our congregations are places that can be present and organize our power and presence with one another. We can show up for each other as spiritual companions and friends, and we can even bring our state senators with us. This is when, a couple years ago, over the summer, my state senator, Laura Fine, she slid in under the radar. On a Zoom together, I filled out all her stuff, and we went through this long list to get her to sign up, just like her constituents have to. She was agog at what a pain in the tuchus it was to sign up to visit a loved one in prison, and she came with me to visit Lonnie. I was only expecting her to stay, who knew, right? Maybe 30 minutes. She stayed for over 2 hours to listen to Lonnie's experience and to learn from him. So there are different ways that we can show up for one another. We have some photos here of all the different ways that people in Unitarian Universalist congregations have shown up. There's a picture of a group holding a sign that says Free Bernina. Bernina is a criminalized survivor of gender-based violence who had a clemency hearing. People in Bloomington Normal, including the clergy person, the Unitarian Universalist minister there, Rebecca Gant, showed up with other folks from different organizations that are focused on collective liberation. We have pictures of folks outside of Senator Simmons' office asking him, a Chicago legislator, to find ways to continue to get people out and decarcerate. And then you see this picture of people in chairs, and that's us doing circle work together, building relationship together, really learning how to be in covenant with one another and build community, whether we do it on the outside, but also in the prison ministry, we do it on the inside. We go into Logan Women's Prison, Cook County Jail, the men's and women's side, and also have someone who comes in to do pagan observances for the Logan women, and we're expanding that also into Decatur, which is the other women's prison. So there are multiple ways that we find ourselves given opportunities to show up. Now I want to remind you, there's my picture of Patrice. that Patrice is the one who, having been locked up since 1995, I want you to highlight again these lyrics that he wanted you to hear. Ain't it good to know that you've got a friend when people can be so cold? They'll hurt you, yes, and desert you, and take your soul if you let them. Oh, but don't you let them. Friends, we can't let them. We have to hold on to our souls for dear life. And in this congregational life, that's building connections. It's honoring transitions, joys and sorrows, hearing testimony, and what the synchronicity of all the people, of hearing of all the people who have grown up in this congregation, where we honor the best of what it means to be human, where no one is disposable, and everyone has a place to feel like they have a spiritual friend to be held when you're weary, when it feels like everything is storming around you. That this can be an oasis of fortitude, of courage, and refreshment for the journey. Ain't it good to know you have this church? And that it's not perfect, that it's filled with precious, fallible lives of oopses and ouches, and that you're a dynamic, growing, learning community that's more than the sum of your parts, and that your organized presence can help with the repair of the world to a world of salam, that vision of heaven on earth that we work towards through community. Now, at the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois, we invite you to expand that community. And I really want to highlight and give my thanks to all of you who are outside pen pals. If you could just raise your hand if you've been involved in the pen pal work, thank you. Please give a round. Thank you. I appreciate you so much in any ways that you all have participated and organized to bring a Unitarian Universalist presence to the places that need it. And we invite you to hold that mirror up, to visibilize those who are locked up. And as my friend Lonnie writes, this is what builds community in the reflections of a mirrored life. Blessed be. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
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 Thank you, dear colleague. Listening to your story, I was put in mind of many years ago now. I worked with DUI offenders in Cook County, and there was one who was sentenced to jail. And I switched jobs, and I was working for, at the time, Treatment Alternatives to Street Crimes. It's called something different now, TASK. And I was on the juvenile program, and I was training in Cook County Jail. And as we were walking through, coming in, there was a prisoner who was being let off the elevator, and it was a young man that I had worked with in the DUI program. And when I saw him, I went to him and I embraced him. That did not go over well. I was pulled away, he was pulled away, and I was told in no uncertain terms, do not hug the prisoners. It stayed with me, and you're recalling it for me now. Thank you for your messages, both of you, and for your presence here, and we know we're going to hear more from you. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we gather to grow and to learn, to deepen in our values, and to find affirmation in service, because we recognize that what we do matters, what we say makes an impact, and how we move through the world resonates throughout this fragile, resilient web of life, especially in these uncertain times. We're grateful for our capacity to come together and to commit together to ensure that the funds that we gather collectively do a greater good, not only for ourselves, beloveds. We don't exist as the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale just for us. because then we would be a social club. But still, now we know that we are called to enact our values in the wider community as well. And our financial contributions help us to do that. Today, this entire offering will go to the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois. In a moment, yeah, you can clap for that. You can clap for that. In a moment, the ushers will come forward to receive your offering, but I want to remind you that throughout the month, you can go onto our website and go to the Justice section or the Donate section, and there'll be a button where you can donate all month long to the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois. I invite you to say these offertory words with me. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with people around us, and with all the world. The ushers will come forward to receive your offering, and I encourage you to be as generous as you possibly can, more than you probably expected when you came in the door. All that you have shared, we extinguish this chalice and carry its light with us.
And now we're going to join in singing Come and Go With Me, imagining that world that we dream of, getting ready to go, okay?
Yep, you're gonna rise in by the Spirit.
Please rise. Beloveds, go in peace, carrying the joy of community with you in your days ahead, and remember the power that you have for organized presence. Love, peace, and justice be with you until we return together again.